Hi, and welcome to part 2 in this multi-part series on Logictry. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to add some more advanced styling and a few more unique capabilities to the same app that we had just created in the first part. So here we have that first Logic app that we built. Go ahead and click on that and go to the edit mode. And the first thing that we're going to explore is that everything you create in here is HTML5 and WYSIWYG capable. So there's two icons here. This one is raw text mode. This is HTML5 WYSIWYG mode. So if I click on this HTML5 WYSIWYG and I now click into this node, you'll notice it opens up the WYSIWYG. From here, I can add this bold, underline it, and add some of this basic formatting. If I click out of that node, you'll see it's formatted bold and underline. If I click on preview, you'll also see that to the end user that accesses our app, they will see it bolded and underlined. But how did it actually do this? It did this because underneath the hood, this is actually HTML. And we can see this in a variety of ways. Staying in the HTML mode, I can click back in, click here to toggle between HTML or side by side, or back to the rendered HTML mode. The other way I can see this is to go back to the raw mode where I see the underlying HTML. So that's the first piece. The second thing we're going to introduce is now some of the other additional elements that we have here. So there's a lot of unique functionality that each of these individual nodes does. So let's start with the second most basic element besides text, because text is the most basic. So the second most basic is a category. What if we want to categorize some of the information? So if I put down a category and I say part 1 and part 2, part 3, so I added 3 different categories, and maybe underneath part 1 I'll add a text node and say this is some training materials for part 1, and underneath part 2 I'll add the same and say this is part 2, training materials. So if we now switch to the preview mode, then what we can see is that when people access this app, they're going to see the rendered HTML and they're going to see these categories that they can expand to learn more information in those different parts. So you can kind of see that we almost built a basic FAQ. And in fact, if I go back into these categories, I can start to add some of the settings like a card that I can add to each of these. And now it really starts to look like just a basic FAQ that people can go to find out more information for the different parts of our app. And then the last thing we'll introduce briefly is that text is one type of node, but another basic node is a question. So let me add underneath training materials part 1, I'll say answer part 1 question. And we'll have answer choice 1 and answer choice 2. And so now if we go back and preview, we can see that if somebody accesses the basic FAQ and they open up part 1, they can see not only just some information and basic text, but they can also see an actual interactive answer choice that they can click on. And so that's the end of this part 2 video, and in part 3 we'll start getting into some even more complex, unique capabilities of the platform.